All right, YouTube, thanks for coming back to the channel. I have a few stories for you today and a Q&A. Actually, I have a couple of Q&As. I'm probably only going to do one. Please like and share this video. If you have not subscribed yet, subscribe and hit that notification bell. You'll know when there's a new video coming out. In the description below, I will have links to my Instagram, my Twitter. You guys want to follow me on that? There's a 7-5 group on Facebook. You guys could join that if you'd like. It's all in the description below. There's also a link to my book, Betrayal in Blue, on Amazon, and also to my merch shop, which is also down in the description below, where you could buy t-shirts, the 7-5. There's a lot of different variations of the shirt, map of the 7-5. There's a map of what the Welcome to Brooklyn sign with Brooklyn crossed out and LOF written in, land of F. Hats, mugs, coffee mugs, all types of different stuff. So you guys could check that out. All right, let's get into our first story. Our first story, of course, well, you know what? There was a lot of arrested cops since I've done my last video. Domestic violence seems to be out of control, and DUIs also. I mean, cops are getting arrested left and right for both of those things. There were numerous stories on both, and I try not to do those stories because there's just so many. I mean, it would be a constant parade of domestic violence, unless the domestic violence gets into, a very bad assault where someone's critically injured or murdered or something like that, then I'll do the story. But I'm not going to get into basic domestic violence and DUIs unless, again, the DUI involves a hit and run that a cop did, or someone died in the accident, something like that. So I'll just skip over all those stories, try to go with where there are actual crimes committed. The ones today, the first story comes out of Florida, Hialeah Gardens. This guy is 30 years old. His name is Leonardo Carbo. This is a little strange. I mean, I don't understand what the fuck this guy was doing. A fellow officer of his was going somewhere on vacation. He was at the airport and realized he left his credit card at a pawn shop, his own personal credit card. So he called up his buddy who's on the job, Leonardo, and asked him to go to this pawn shop where he left his card. Can you please go pick up my credit card? Leonardo goes down, picks up the credit card, and now he does a couple of strange things. First off, he starts unauthorized purchases on his buddy's credit card. Buddy never told him you could use my credit card and buy yourself a bunch of stuff. He went over, and it wasn't like he went out to lunch. I did you a favor. I made you buy me lunch. He went out and spent over, felony amount, over $1,500. So it wasn't even petty larceny, unauthorized use of a credit card, grand larceny probably. So he gets arrested for that, and and he gets immediately fired. But while they're and why, if you're going to do something as stupid as that, why use your buddy's credit card? I mean, it's not like it's a credit card he found at a crime scene or something and he went out and filled his tank with gas and maybe no one would have figured it out. I mean, it's his buddy's credit card. And the guy knows as soon as the charges come in that this is right after I told you to pick up my credit card. So, but the other strange thing Leonardo does is while he's at the pawn shop, he pawns a Glock 22 and an AR-15. Not really a big deal, except they were department-issued weapons. It wasn't his own private weapon. Like a lot of cops, they get the department-issued weapon, and then they buy their own weapons on the side. A lot of cops, big gun buffs, obviously, and they have all types of weapons. But why are you pawning the ones you actually got department-issued? I mean, that just makes no sense at all. So I don't know what is going on in Leonardo's mind, but he got fired after his arrest. Like I said, he got charged with the unauthorized purchases, and the dude just ruined his life at 30 years old for minor bullshit. it's not, I guess it's not really considered corruption unless he was actually in uniform when he did it. Then it would be, you know, a corruption related thing too. You know, conduct it might be conduct unbecoming of an officer anyway, even if he did it off duty. But why are you pawning your department issued weapons? That's like, I don't understand that at all. So he's screwed and lost his job. All right, next, there's two more stories. They're real brief. They're very similar related. Two different locations. The first one is from New Orleans, or New Orleans, as they say. 4 officers were arrested for payroll fraud. Now, they're all less than 6 years on the job, but 3 of them are up in age with less than 6 years on the job. So I find that a little odd to start with. The oldest guy was 51, and there's a 44-year-old, 43-year-old, and a 33-year-old. 33-year-old I could understand, 6 years on the job. You know, he got hired in his 20s. The 51-year-old, 6 years on the job, that means he got hired at 45. Now, when I got back on, and I understand times have changed. When I got on the job, it was, you know, you had to be 20 years old to be hired, and you couldn't be no older than 30. Unless you had military time, then I think they gave you, I think it was 3 years extra for military time. So you could be up to 33 years old. I could be wrong on the actual ages, but that was about it. I've never heard of anyone at, you know, 45 years of age getting hired as a police officer. So, and he might have been older than that. I'm just giving him the full benefit of the doubt of 6 full years on the job and being arrested at 51. It didn't say how long this guy was actually on the job, just that it was less than 6 years. So if anyone knows anything different than, you know, that in the hiring practices on age, I mean, maybe there was a lawsuit that I'm not aware of for age discrimination. I know years ago, for the NYPD, you had to be 5'5" to get on the job. If you were under 5'5", you couldn't get on the job. And then there was a lawsuit for, you know, discrimination against height, and that changed. And I think that was still when I got on the job in 81. So if anyone knows anything, you know, where hiring practices change, write in and you know, put down some comments, let me know. So these guys were hired for payroll fraud. They were working at some off-duty job. I think it was a country club or a golf club or something, doing off-duty security. And they were submitting fake timesheets for times that they weren't actually there. So somewhere, you know, someone caught on. Maybe he was a bookkeeper, an accountant, or, you know, whoever was in charge of these guys. But what's interesting, this led to a federal probe of timesheets of over 11 cops. So there's 11 other cops being investigated for this now in New Orleans, and there were allegations against dozens of cops for the same thing on that department. So this might turn into something a little bigger. Like I say, 11 of them are actually being investigated now, and the 4 were already arrested. Going back to Florida now, same thing, payroll fraud again. Jacksonville, it's a 44-year-old cop, and same thing. He documented hours. He never worked at a private security firm. Excuse me. He faces 2 third-degree felonies. What the fuck are you guys doing, man? I mean, I guess you know, you're seeing loopholes in what you're doing or something, you know, and you try to get away with it, but you get caught. I mean, there's really, it's pretty stupid. Like, so what happens if something goes down while at your private security firm and you're not there and you submitted a payroll sheet for it, timesheet? This guy actually was, he was working, he was on the job doing regular cop work while he was supposed to be doing the private security. He submitted timesheets for private security while he was actually working as a cop. So maybe he was checking in while he was, you know, on patrol. But no, you can't do that. You got to be there the full time. Obviously, you can't be splitting your time between the two, and then, you know, that's like double dipping, getting paid for 2 jobs at the same time. All right. So those were our three stories. They're pretty minor, but you know, just I thought they were interesting, especially the first story where the guy pawned his service issued weapons. That was I don't know. Someone should interview that guy and see what the fuck he was thinking. All right. So, and I don't know how they find that out about. I guess they found out about it once with the credit card fraud, and then they investigated him and they wanted his weapons back. And he's like, "Oops, well, here's my pawn slip for it. You could go pick them up at the pawn shop, unless maybe the pawn guy ran this, serial numbers and found out they come back to the police department in Florida, Hialeah Gardens." But I would think once he was arrested for the credit card fraud, they said, "Okay, turn in your weapons." And then he's like, "Oh, I don't have my weapons. I pawned them." So he must have had some type of issues going on. All right. Q&A. The one I'm going to do is it goes back to, and it obviously doesn't relate to, current times because now everyone has GPS. The question was, how did we know as cops back in the 80s and prior, how did we know what the block address to go to when we were given a job? Like, so say you were given a job for, 1000 Sutter Avenue. That's the precinct, the 7-5 precinct. You learn back then when there's no GPS, you're literally given a map the day you enter the precinct with all the street names on it. So you learn the precinct streets really fast. You know what's north, what's south, what's east, what's west. So you know what direction to head it into when your dispatch gives you an address with a street. So repetition kicks in and you start to learn addresses as well. You'll know 1000 Sutter Avenue is between Linwood and Essex, and same with other addresses throughout the precinct. But what was most helpful once you learn those streets, which was pretty quickly, because as a new officer, you're in the driver's seat. Like my partner let me drive right away. That's how you learn a precinct. You're not going to learn a precinct sitting in a passenger seat. It's just not going to happen. So, but what really helped was once you learn those streets, where they are and in relation to each other, dispatch will tell you 1000 Sutter Avenue. Again, just using the 7-5 as an example, and then they'll give you the cross streets. 1000 Sutter Avenue, whatever, shots fired. Cross streets, Linwood and Essex. So you know to go to that location on 1000 Sutter Avenue. If, it was a regular address, not the precinct. Obviously, you ain't got to know the precinct. Just using that as an example. So whatever, if say it was, 1000 Pennsylvania Avenue, and, and you're a rookie, you know where Pennsylvania Avenue is right away. You don't exactly know where 1000 is, but they'll give you the cross streets, new lots to Livonia, whatever, new lots to Livonia to Riverdale, whatever. And you'll go to Pennsylvania Avenue between those two cross streets. So cross streets helped a lot. But as you worked patrol more and more, you knew addresses. A lot of addresses became chronic calls, repetitive. So as soon as you hear the address, you don't even have to wait for the cross street. But Central always gave you the cross streets anyway. They're right there sitting in front of a computer. There were no computers in our cars back then. I think the first computer came into a car in like 1986. It was called the SP10 unit, and was basically they did a lot of GLAs. They checked, for stolen cars and things like that. They were able to run plates and stuff. So, but there were no computers in the cars back then. And, but that's how you learn the streets. It was a lot of repetition, and Central giving you the cross streets. So that's it. That's our show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit the like button, please, and share this. And again, if you have not subscribed, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll be getting another one out hopefully sooner than later. Thanks so much.